Is your company known as a mom and pop? Is that actually a good thing? Let's talk about branding. So sorry I'm late this morning, Jim. I had a little problem with parking.
Well, you know, once you become a really special member of the podcast network, the talknorth.com podcast network, we might actually find you a parking spot. Right now, you're trying to prove yourself, which I appreciate.
I'm doing my best, and then I'm trying to cross the street, and there's this big bus, right? And I feel like I'm dancing with this bus. I'm juking to the right, juking to the left, and the bus seems like it's juking with me. And I'm looking at this bus thinking, that's a big bus. And I can see the bus driver looking at me saying, that's a big dude. And next thing I know, I'm here and we're doing a podcast. But
well, the other thing is Roy has to park in, Roy Smalley, our baseball guru on talknorth.com, has to park in the garage because we can't have wind touching Roy's hair.
Right.
Your hair will probably protect you against a bus. So I think you're fine.
It does. You know what? That's good advice. I'll just put my head down next time.
Exactly. I don't have that. I have neither the task of keeping my hair in line or the luxury of having it work as a helmet.
It's immediately turned into a hair show, folks.
Yeah. Okay. We'll move on. I promise we'll move on.
Okay, Jim. Were you going to say something? I just interrupted you. I could tell by the posture.
No, believe me, it couldn't have been important.
Are you sure?
Yes.
So here's my question. What's the difference between a slogan and a motto?
Ooh, that's a really good question.
Mr. Wordmeister over there.
A slogan and a
Commander
motto.
of the English language.
You know what, though? I'm kind of temporarily stumped, so I'll let you tell me.
Nothing.
Okay.
It's just that slogan is
it's
used.
It's a trick question.
Yes.
I really was trying to figure out the difference. I couldn't think of one.
Well, I guess everything has a slight difference. Otherwise, it wouldn't be a different word for it. But for the most part, slogan is what we use when you talk about advertising. And a motto is probably something you would use across different.
Got it.
Venues, or I don't know I just screwed the word up there anyway. Okay, so what's the difference between a slogan and a mantra?
Well, a mantra is something you repeat often to yourself.
So in the Buddhist tradition, this is where we focus. I shouldn't say we. I'm not a Buddhist. Nothing against Buddhists. I just didn't want the Buddhist people who are listening to think that I was implying that I was part of this. But Buddhists like to use it to focus. So it's you're right. It's repeated over and over. Mm-hmm. But in business, you can still have a mantra, which is in meetings. We talked a little bit about values and things like that. A mantra is like one of those things you communicate internally. And that's really the message. That's really the attitude, in a business. And a slogan, again, is something that we use for advertising. Quick, easy. This is what we're about. And I bring this up because the phrase mom and pop, I'm going to use that as an example of oftentimes people see that as a good thing. I'm not saying it's not a good thing, but you have to ask yourself, is that what my business wants to be known as? Do I want to say I'm a mom and pop? I mean, frankly, I think that the mom and pop is more of a term of endearment that other people use about a business. But oftentimes businesses will say, oh, we're a mom and pop shop. And the idea is great because what's good about a mom and pop, right, is let's talk about connotations, right? So the connotations of a mom and pop is reliable, good service,
personable,
right? Down to earth, quality, all those things. But the negative connotations of mom and pop oftentimes is slower, less selection, right? Probably more expensive. So that's why we're asking this question this morning, is that what you want to be known at? If I'm going to take out speed, selection, and pricing, I just wiped out about 90% of all the people that are out there shopping for things. Now, if I can live on the 10% that are left, or whatever that number is, then it's fine. So it's just a good example. It's a little bit like, like I said before, it's one of those terms that if somebody's using about you, it's almost always a term of endearment. It's a little bit like the word humble. I always get a kick out of people that say, well, I'm just trying to be humble. Well, you just screwed it up. You just screwed that one up. It's one of those words that someone else uses basically to describe you. You hope, anyway. Hope you're doing a good job. So I thought today we would talk about branding and how important it is, whether you have a service business, whether you have a retail business, whether you have a commercial business. Branding is extremely important. And the things we're going to talk about are logos, slogos and slogans.
Slogos.
We got slogos and we got...
We're very creative on this
mantras. Yep, we got... and I got a word called vibe and public perception. So very important to know what the public perception is and to be honest about it, right? Don't just pick the one thing somebody says that you like. You've got to really dig in and find out what the public perception is of your business and how you market things. How you market, the ways in which you use to market your business will say a lot about who you are, and it will have a major impact on how people view you and the public perception of stuff. So we're going to talk about my favorite part of branding altogether, period. I think we've had this conversation before, but we're going to talk about logos. We're probably going to talk about logos more than anything else on the show because I cannot stress to everybody who's listening, if you're going to have a business and it's going to be in the public eye, your logo is critically important. And this is a mistake that I see people make all the time. And there's many reasons why a logo is important, but the first thing you have to think about is your logo is everywhere because you're going to put it on your business cards, you're going to put it on your website, you're going to put it on your marketing materials, you're going to put it everywhere. So if it's bad, you're just putting badness out there everywhere. You don't have to have, this is the other thing I want to say real quick, you don't have to have a perfect logo. You just can't have a bad one. And bad in terms of how does it fit with other things? Bad in terms of can you read it? Bad in terms of what does it say, about your company? Because it is the most subliminal message that you can send about you and your business is your logo. So don't ever have your best friend design your logo. Don't ever design your logo yourself. I'm so sorry if I'm saying this and I'm offending thousands of people because I know this happens. If business people have a creative side of them, they might design their logo before they do anything else. And if you haven't started already, if you don't have thousands of dollars invested in your logo and you've sketched one out right now, just please throw it away.
Throw the boss out, throw the logo out.
You need to. It's really important. It's going to seem great to you. You're going to think this is a great logo, but it's because you want to tap into your creative side. Same thing with your best friend. Unless your best friend happens to be an expert graphic designer who specializes in logos, which is going to be a pretty small market, pretty small possibility, then do not have your best friend, your sister, your brother, your uncle's recommendation, the kid who's just can draw everything good, right? Don't have those people do your logo. Spend money on your logo. And there's another point that I want to make to everybody. The two things people spend too much money on in business are logo design and website development. It's so easy to spend way more than you need to in either case. So in one way, I'm saying don't go cheap on the logo, but I'm also saying don't pay somebody $10,000 to design your logo. I just don't think you don't need to do that. So what do you like? Give me some feedback here, Jim. What are you thinking about all this?
Well, the first thing that popped in my head, and by the way, thanks to everybody who listens to this show or any of the shows on the talknorth.com podcast network. Please go to the website, check out the shows. New show with Cheryl Reeve, The Old War Horses with Russo, Smalley, Krasinski, John Millay, Tim Yoder, Viking Update, all that. We appreciate your listens. Also, new development in the podcast world. It's becoming more and more critical that, for our growth and dealing with advertisers, that if you listen to the shows, please download them if you can. We appreciate all listeners, iTunes, subscriptions, whatever way you want to listen. But if you can download, that will help us out, and I appreciate it. My thought, Joe, was you said how important a logo is, and I just have this image of ESPN rising from this dinky little weird cable company that showed Australian rules football to the monolith that it is today, and they've always had just that simple red ESPN logo. Nothing fancy about it, nothing special about it, and I don't know if that helped their development, if it was coincidental to their development. I was interested in your thoughts on that simple a logo.
Yeah, so that's the way they should be. A logo needs to be very readable. As a matter of fact, on the way down here, I created a new rule that everybody should follow. This is just came out of the blue. Your logo, if you print up your logo just off your printer or whatever on a size of a business card, and from 6 feet away, you should be able to read the logo. If you can't read the logo 6 feet away on a business card size, start over.
Interesting.
Yep. Because that's the biggest thing. Scripty stuff, don't do scripty stuff unless it's really, really legible.
My other thought, to interrupt, sorry,
Please do.
I once read a designer's review of the Minnesota Twins logo, which is not just the the Twins or whatever. Like the TC, I think is great. The TC, you know what it stands for. It's unique. It's not just another Minnesota. It's not just an M. I used to have this conversation with Tom Kelly. We always thought those are the best Twins hats, the TC hat. The actual Minnesota Twins logo, the circular thing with all the writing on it.
Where they're shaking hands, the guys are shaking hands. You're going back that far?
That in the middle, but with all the circular writing around it. A graphic designer once reviewed it and said it's horrible. You can't read any of the words. It's way too busy.
Yeah, I would agree. Now, sometimes a business can be so successful that it can actually project beyond its logo and make its logo livable. Mm-hmm. But the chances of that happening for anybody's business are slim to none. Like there's so much that has to happen. And why wouldn't you just take the better approach of saying, I can design a good logo? Again, it does not have to be a knock it out of the park. See what I did there with the sports thing?
That was a slogo. That's
right.
What that was.
That
was a slogo.
Right. I'm trying to put a couple of these words together. I'm just going to screw it up. So, you just made me lose my train of thought.
I'm sorry.
What the hell? I mean,
that's what I'm here for, though. I'm here to agitate.
I am, and I'm here to educate. So you're going to be the educator. You're the agitator. I'm the educator. Is this how we?
That's how we do.
Did we just brand ourselves a bit?
The agitator and the educator. That's pretty good, actually.
I mean, that could be a show in itself. If this one doesn't work out, we'll just do exactly the same thing.
I just think we should use this show, and you continue educating. I'll continue agitating. That'll be fine.
So logos. Oh, okay. So again, shape of logo. Don't make a logo that's taller than it is wide.
That makes sense to me.
It needs to fit. It square is good. Little longer than it is tall typically is better. Now there could be graphic designers out there telling me that that's bad, but I've designed a lot of logos or had a lot of logos designed. Hey, I've designed some of my own logos. They do not live at all anymore anywhere. Right? I made those mistakes. So oftentimes when I tell people don't do this is because I've had to do it. And when you have a logo and you redo your logo, when you finally realize it's really bad and you have to redo it, you got a lot of printing to do. You got a lot of updating. You got to, rebrand yourself. It's not good. So it's best to spend some time and effort and money and get somebody who knows about logos. Pick the right colors, make it, it needs to connect with the kind of buyer that you have. And now that can be a little tricky when you're new because there's a little bit of this dog wagging the tail versus the tail and the tail wagging the dog with logos. And this goes back to just don't do a bad one. So you might do a mediocre one and you might think this is going to appeal to my demographic or the people that I want to attract. You might find a year later that it actually did the opposite and appealed to a different market. But that's usually not a bad thing, right? As long as that market is producing for you and all that. But I do know this. Logos absolutely bring in certain demographics of people. I can tell you that. And the other thing that happens is when you're in a very brand heavy business, like the Riff City guitar thing, where we're partnering up with, massive names like Fender, Marshall and Roland, Boss Roland, that kind of thing. It is you build, I call it the hyphen. You build the hyphen between your brand and your logo and their logo, your brand and their brand. And we see it all the